It's a wonderful night for a wonderful table read of It's a Wonderful Life. And everyone here is very, very brave because this classic movie has a lot of roles, and some we just handed out. So please bear with us as we try to even just keep track of them tonight. So I'll introduce you to these wonderful, wonderful, amazing people. And first, we got Kat. Please introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about you and where they can find you if you would like.
All right. I am Kat Wilson in Gig Harbor, Washington. I am a stay-at-home mom who enjoys reading scripts, especially here on Tuesdays and on Saturdays with Two Households and Fair Corona, Shakespeare reading group.
Awesome, awesome. And next, Vicky.
Hi, I'm Vicki Dykes. I'm from Central Alberta. I'm an actress, a yoga enthusiast, really becoming more busy the older I get. So that's very cool. Going to do a murder mystery on Friday, and I haven't done one for about 5 years. So it's like, okay, this is going to be different. Tonight I'm George Bailey. That's it. Everyone else is taking the rest of the movie, and that's just, it's insane. I'm in awe of all of you.
Thank you, thank you. And we were just talking about dinner mysteries. What's it called? I can't say it right now. Murder mysteries. That's it. Right before we went live, and so maybe we can talk about that more in the after discussion. And yeah, you're taking half the movie yourself with George Bailey. So thank you. We look forward to that. And next we have Roxane.
Hi, I'm Roxane Armstrong. I'm an actor here in Central Alberta and also social marketer for a health and wellness company. I kind of have my toes in a lot of different places, have been doing improv. Today, you can find me in our local newspaper as the athlete of the week for my infamous cartwheel journey, which I get a really big kick out of. But yeah, apparently someone nominated me and I'm the athlete of the week. A local celebrity, I guess. But other than that, you can find me on Facebook as Roxane Armstrong or Instagram as Roxane. That's it.
That is so awesome. Congrats on that. Angel.
Hi, I'm Angel Peterson, and one of the people who put Table Read Tuesday together, and I never know what to say for these things. You can find me on Instagram, Angel CDP. They're my initials.
Should we just have other people do them for other people that know them
Yeah,
well?
probably.
All right. She's editing right now. She's writing scripts. She's getting more jobs doing both of those. But by the time you hire her, she'll be done with those. So contact her to do more screenwriting and editing. There you go.
And I act too.
Oh, yeah.
But not very much anymore.
And she writes books
A
too.
lot.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. You can find her book on
She's got some
Amazon.
published books. Yeah, you know, a little of this and that.
Yes.
Thanks.
And so we're so thank you for all of you that have been here for years and like just a lot of times, a lot this year or 2 years. And now we're also thank you for a newcomer to this Table Read Tuesday, Michelle. Please tell them about yourself and what you do, and if you would like any of them to find you where they can.
Okay, so I am Michelle Smiley. I am located in Central New York. My day job is as a teacher of the deaf and sign language interpreter, a special skill there. And my evening weekends are spent doing all kinds of theater, particularly recently murder mystery dinner theater, improv, interactive mystery shows, and just was in one recently. So those are the things that I love to do, sing, whatnot. And the picture you see behind me is the bridge from Seneca Falls. It's about an hour and a half from me, and it is where Bedford Falls is supposed to be based off of. And every second weekend of December, they have a huge It's a Wonderful Life festival museum. They have actors from the movies, families of actors of the movies, presentations, and everything else. So this is close to my heart because it's one of my favorite movies, and it's literally geographically close to where I am.
Very
That is amazing. All right, we're gonna ask you more questions about that and after the discussion afterwards, if we're not too tired. And I'll post those links you shared before in the comments or the action description. I mean YouTube description later. But this
And Jacob Patrick.
oh thank you. I like screenwriting. I'm glad to have everybody here to help me read more and more scripts of amazing movies like this one, and I hope to write more screenplays someday. But I'm just here to spend time with all of you wonderful people. So thank you, Angel, and we'll get started. So I will share the screen, and Angel will take us away, and we'll try and keep track.
Okay, I have to make this bigger for me. All right. This could be difficult. Okay.
It will be.
It's a Wonderful Life by Francis Goodrich, Albert Hackett, Frank Capra, and Joe Swirling.
And Frank is who directed the movie. Amazing direction.
Okay. Could you make it a little bigger, please?
I will do so.
I can give it
How
a
about a lot bigger? Just kidding.
cool. That's
Oh,
and now
I
it
guess
cuts it
'cause-
off. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
that's good. That's great. Thank you. Fade in night sequence. Series of shots of various streets and buildings in the town of Bedford Falls, somewhere in New York State. The streets are deserted and the snow is falling. It is Christmas Eve. Over the above scenes, we hear voices praying.
I owe everything to George Bailey. Help him, dear Father. Joseph, Jesus, and Mary, help my friend, Mr. Bailey.
Help my son George tonight.
He never thinks about himself, God. That's why he's in trouble.
George is a good guy. Give him a break, God.
I love him, dear Lord. Watch over him tonight.
Please, God. Something's the matter with Daddy.
Please bring Daddy back. Camera pulls up from Bailey's home and travels up through the sky until it is above the falling snow and moving slowly toward the firmament full of stars. As the camera stops, we hear the following heavenly voices talking. And as each voice is heard, one of the stars twinkles brightly.
Oh, we didn't recast. Oh,
Oh, we didn't.
hello, Joseph. Trouble? Looks like we'll have to send someone down. A lot of people are asking for help for a man named George Bailey. I should give that to someone else. I'm talking to myself. George Bailey? Yes, tonight's his crucial night. You're right. We'll have to send someone down immediately. Whose turn is it? That's why I came to you, sir. It's that clockmaker's turn again. Oh, Clarence. Hasn't got wings yet, has he? We've passed him up right along. Because, sir, he's got the IQ of a rabbit. Yes, but he's got the faith of a child's. Simple. Joseph, send for Clarence.
A small star flies in from left of the screen and stops. It twinkles as Clarence speaks. You sent for me, sir?
Yes, Clarence, a man down on earth needs our help.
Splendid. Is he sick?
No, worse. He's discouraged. At exactly 10:45 p.m. tonight, Earth time, that man will be thinking seriously of throwing away God's greatest gift.
Oh, dear. His life. Well, then I've only got an hour to dress. What are they wearing now?
You will spend that hour getting acquainted with George Bailey.
Sir, if I should accomplish this mission, might I perhaps win my wings? I've been waiting for over 200 years now, sir, and people are beginning to talk.
What's that book you've got there?
The Adventures of Tom Sawyer.
Clarence, you do a good job with George Bailey, and you'll get your wings.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Poor George. Sit down.
Sit down.
If you're going to help a man, you want to know something about him, don't you?
Well, naturally, of course.
Well, keep your eyes open. You see that town?
The stars fade out from the screen, and a light, indistinguishable blur is seen. Where? I don't see a thing.
Oh, I forgot. You haven't got your wings yet. Now look, I'll help you out. Concentrate. Begin to see something.
The on the screen slowly begins to take form. We see a group of young boys on top of a snow-covered hill. Why, yes, this is amazing.
If you ever get your wings, you'll see all by yourself.
Oh, wonderful. Exterior frozen river and hill day, 1919. Close shot. Group of boys. They're preparing a slide down the hill on a large shovels. One of them makes a slide and shoots out onto the ice of a frozen river at the bottom of the hill. Yippee! Hey, who's that?
That's your problem, George Bailey.
A boy.
That's him when he was 12, back in 1919. Something happens here you'll have to remember later on.
Series of shots of as 4 or 5 boys make a slide down the hill and out onto the ice. As each boy comes down, the others applaud. Close shot. George Bailey at the bottom of the slide.
And here comes the scare baby, my kid brother, Harry Bailey.
Close shot. Harry on top of the hill preparing to make his slide.
I'm not scared.
Come on, Harry. Attaboy, Harry. Medium shot. Harry makes a slide very fast. He passes the marks made by the other boys, and his shovel takes him onto the thin ice in the bend of the river. The ice breaks, and Harry disappears into the water. Close shot. George.
I'm coming, Harry.
Medium shot. George jumps into the water and grabs Harry. As he starts to pull him out, he yells,
Make a chain, gang. A chain.
Wider angle. The other boys lie flat on the ice, forming a human chain. When George reaches the edge with Harry in his arms, they pull them both to safety.
George saved his brother's life that day, but he caught a bad cold which infected his left ear, cost him his hearing in that ear. It was weeks before he could return to his after-school job at Old Man Grove's drugstore.
Dissolve. Exterior Main Street, Bedford Falls, spring afternoon. Medium shot. 5 or 6 boys are coming toward the camera, arm in arm, whistling. Their attention is drawn to an elaborate horse-drawn carriage proceeding down the other side of the street. Medium pan shot. The carriage driving by. We catch a glimpse of an elderly man riding in it. Close shot. The boys watching the carriage.
Mr. Potter.
Who's that? A king?
That's Henry F. Potter, the richest and meanest man in the county.
The boys continue until they reach Gower's drugstore. The drugstore is old-fashioned and dignified, with jars of colored water in the windows and little else. As the kids stop.
So long.
Gotta work, slave. Hee-haw, hee-haw. Interior drugstore day, medium shot. George comes in and crosses to the old-fashioned cigar lighter on the counter. He shuts his eyes and makes a wish.
Wish I had $1 million.
He clicks the lighter and the flames spring open.
Hot dog.
Wider angle. George crosses over to the soda fountain, at which Mary Hatch, a small girl, is seated watching him. George goes on to get his apron from behind the fountain.
It's me, Mr. Gower, George Bailey.
Close shot. Mr. Gower, the druggist, peering from a window in back room. We see him take a drink from a bottle.
You're late.
Medium shot. George behind soda fountain. He's putting on his apron.
Yes, sir.
Wider angle. Violet Bix enters the drugstore and sits in one of the stools of the fountain. She is the same height as Mary and the same age, but she is infinitely older in her approach to people.
Hello, George. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Violet.
George regards the two of them as with manly disgust. They are 2 kids to him and a nuisance. He starts over to for the candy counter.
2 cents worth of shoelaces.
She was here first.
I'm still thinking.
Shoelaces?
Please, Georgie.
George goes over to the candy counter.
I like him.
You like every boy.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Here you are.
George gives Violet the paper sack containing licorice shoelaces. Violet gives him the money.
Help me down.
Help you down?
Violet jumps down off the stool and exits. Mary, watching, sticks out her tongue as she passes. Close shot. George and Mary at fountain.
Made up your mind yet?
I'll take chocolate.
George puts some chocolate ice cream in a dish.
With coconuts?
I don't like coconuts.
You don't like coconuts? Oh, say, brainless, don't you know where coconuts come from? Look at here, from Tahiti, Fiji Islands, the Coral Sea.
He pulls a magazine from his pocket and shows it to her.
A new magazine? I never saw it before.
Oh, of course you never. Only us explorers can get it. I've been nominated for membership in the National Geographic Society.
He leans down to finish scooping out the ice cream, his deaf ear toward her. She leans closer, speaking softly. Close shot, Mary whispering.
Is this the ear you can't hear on? George Bailey, I'll love you till the day I die.
She draws back quickly and looks down, terrified at what she said. Close shot, George and Mary.
I'm going out exploring someday. You watch, and I'm going to have a couple of harems, maybe 3 or 4 wives. Wait and see.
He turns back to the cash register, whistling. Another angle. Taking an entrance to prescription room at the end of fountain. Gower comes to the entrance. He is bleary-eyed, unshaven, chewed an old unlit cigar. His manner is gruff and mean. It is evident
Evident.
he has been drinking.
George, George,
Oh, yes, sir.
you're not paid to be a canary.
Oh, no, sir.
He turns back to the cash register when he notices an open telegram on the shelf. He's about to toss it aside when he starts to read it. Insert the telegram. It reads, We regret to inform you that your son Robert died very suddenly this morning of influenza. Stop. Everything possible was done for his comfort. Stop. We await instructions from you. Edward Mellington, Press, Hamilton College. Back to shot. Close. George puts the telegram down. A goodness of heart expression expresses itself in a desire to do something for Gower. He gives the ice cream to Mary without comment and sidles back toward Gower. Interior prescription room of drugstore day. Close shot. Gower, drunk, is intent on putting some capsules into a box.
Mr. Gower, do you want something?
No,
Anything?
no,
Anything I can do back here?
no.
George looks curiously at Gower, realizing that he is quite drunk. Gower fumbles and drops some of the capsules on the floor. Close shot. Capsules spilling on the floor at their feet. Back to shot. George and Gower.
I'll get them, sir.
He picks up the capsules and puts them in the box. Gower waves George aside, taking his old wet cigar, shoves it into his mouth, and sits at the old Morris chair in the background. George turns a bottle around from which Gower has taken the powder from the capsule. It reads poison. George stands still, horrified.
Take these capsules over to Mrs. Blaine's. She's waiting for him.
George picks up the capsule box, not knowing what to do or say. His eyes go, harassed, to the bottle labeled poison. George's fingers fumble.
Yes, sir. They have the diphtheria there, haven't they, sir?
Gower stares moodily ahead, sucking his cigar. George turns to him, the box in his hand.
Is it a charge, sir?
Yes, charge.
Mr. Gower, I think.
Oh, get going.
Yes, sir.
Interior drugstore day, medium shot. George comes out into the main room. As he puts on his cap, he sees a sweet Caparol's ad which says, insert. Ask Dad, he knows. Sweet Caparol. Back to shot. With an inspiration, George dashes out the door and down the street. Mary follows him with her eyes. Exterior street day, medium shot. George runs down the street until he comes opposite a 2-story building with a sign that on it reading, Bailey Building and Loan Association. He stops. Potter's carriage is waiting at the entrance. Suddenly, he runs up the stairs. Interior, outer office building and loan day, full shot. The offices are ancient and a bit on the rickety side. There's a counter with a grill, something like a bank. Before a door marked, Peter Bailey, private. George's Uncle Billy stands, obviously trying to hear what is going on inside. He is a very good-humored man of about 50 in shirt sleeves. With him at the door, also listening, are Cousin Tilly Bailey, a wispish-looking woman who is the telephone operator, and Cousin Eustace Bailey, the clerk. The office vibrates with an aura of crisis as George enters and proceeds directly towards his father's office. Close shot. Uncle Billy listening at the door. As George is about to enter his father's office, Uncle Billy grabs him by the arm.
Avast there, Captain Cook. Where are you heading?
Oh, I got to see Pop, Uncle Billy.
Some other time, George.
Oh, it's important.
There's a squall in there that's shaping up into a storm.
During the foregoing, Cousin Tilly has answered the telephone and now she calls out, Uncle Billy, telephone,
Who is it?
bank examiner. Insert close-up, Uncle Billy's left hand. There are pieces of string tied to two of the fingers, obviously to remind him of things he has to do. Back to shot, Uncle Billy looking at his hand.
Bank examiner. Oh, I should have called him yesterday. Switch it inside.
He enters a door marked William Bailey, Private. George stands irresolute a moment, aware of his crisis in the affairs of Bailey Building and Loan Association, but aware more keenly of his personal crisis. He opens the door of his father's office and enters. Interior Bailey's private office, day, medium shot. George's father is seated behind his desk, nervously drawing swirls on the pad. He looks tired and worried. He's a gentleman in his 40s, an idealist, stubborn, only for other people's rights. Nearby, in a throne-like wheelchair, behind which stands the goon who furnishes the motive power, sits Henry F. Potter, his squarish derby hat on his head. The following dialogue is fast and heated, as though the argument has been in process for some time.
I'm not crying, Mr. Potter. Well, you're begging, and that's a whole lot worse. All I'm asking is 30 more days.
Pop,
Just a minute, son. Just 30 short days. I'll dig that 5,000 up somehow. Shove me up.
Goon pushes the wheelchair closer to the desk.
Pop.
Have you put any real pressure on those people of yours to pay those mortgages? Times are bad, Mr. Potter. A lot of these people are out of work. Then foreclose. I can't do that. These families have children.
Medium close shot, Potter and Bailey.
Pop.
They're not my children, but they're somebody's children. Are you running a business or a charity ward? Well, all right. Not with my money.
Close shot, Potter and Bailey.
Mr. Potter, what makes you such a hard-skulled character? You have no family, no children. You can't begin to spend all the money you've got. So I suppose I should give it to miserable failures like you and that idiot brother of yours to spend for me?
George cannot listen to any longer to such libel about his father. He comes around in front of the desk.
He's not a failure. You can't say that about my father.
George,
You're not. You're the biggest man in town.
run along.
He pushes George toward the door.
Bigger than him.
As George passes Potter's wheelchair, he pushes the old man's shoulder. The goon puts out a restraining hand.
Bigger than everybody.
George proceeds toward the door, his father's hand on his shoulder. As they go,
Gives you an idea of the Baileys.
interior, outer office building in Lone Day. Close shot. George and his father at the door.
Don't let him say that about you, Pop.
All right, son. Thanks. I'll talk to you tonight.
Bailey closes the door on George and turns back to Potter. George stands outside the door with the capsules in his hand. Wipe to back to drugstore. Interior back room, Gower's drugstore, day. Close shot. Gower talking on the telephone. George stands in the doorway.
Why, that medicine should have been there an hour ago. It'll be over in 5 minutes, Mrs. Blaine.
He hangs up the phone and turns to George.
Where's Mrs. Blaine's box of capsules?
He grabs George by the shirt and drags him into the back room.
Capsules.
Did you hear what I said?
Oh, yes, sir.
Gower starts hitting George about the head with his open hands. George tries to protect himself as best he can.
What kind of tricks are you playing anyway? Why didn't you deliver them right away? Don't you know that boy's very sick?
You're hurting my sore ear.
Interior front room drugstore, day. Close shot. Mary is still seated at the soda fountain. Each time she hears George being slapped, she winces. Interior back room drugstore, day. Close shot. George and Gower.
You lazy loafer.
Oh, Mr. Gower, you don't know what you're doing. You put something wrong in those capsules. I know you're unhappy. Well, you got that telegram and you're upset. But you put something bad in those capsules. It wasn't your fault, Mr. Gower.
George pulls the little box out of his pocket. Gower savagely rips it away from him, breathing heavily, staring at the boy venomously.
Just look and see what you did. Look at the bottle. You took the powder from. It's poison. I tell you, it's poison. I know you feel bad.
George falters off, cupping his aching ear with his hand. Gower looks at the large brown bottle which has not been replaced on the shelf. He tears open the package, shakes the powder out of one of the capsules, cautiously tastes it, then abruptly throws the whole mess to the table and turns to look at George again. The boy is whimpering, hurt, frightened. Gower steps towards him.
Don't hurt my sore ear again.
But this time Gower sweeps the boy to him in a hug and, sobbing hoarsely, crushes the boy in his embrace. George is crying too.
No, no, no.
Don't hurt my ear again.
Oh, George, George.
Mr. Gower, I won't ever tell anyone. I know what you're feeling. I won't ever tell a soul. No, to die, I won't.
Oh, George.
Resolved to Interior Luggage Shop Day 1928 medium shot. It is late afternoon. A young man is looking over an assortment of luggage. Across the counter stands Joe Hepner, the proprietor of the store. He is showing a suitcase.
An overnight bag, genuine English cowhide, combination lock, fitted up with brushes, combs.
Nope.
Nope.
As camera moves up closer to him, he turns and we get our first glimpse of George as a young man. Camera has moved up to a close-up by now.
Nope, 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 nope. Now look, Joe. No, look. I want a big one.
Suddenly in action, as George stands with his arms outstretched in illustration, the picture frame freezes and becomes a still. Over this hold frame shot, we hear the voice from heaven. What did you stop it for?
I want you to take a good look at that face.
Who is it?
That's George Bailey.
Oh, you mean the kid that had his ear slapped by the druggist?
That's the kid.
Well, that's a good face. I like it. I like George Bailey. Tell me, did he ever tell anyone about the pills?
Not a soul.
Or did he ever marry the girl? Did he ever go exploring?
Well, wait and see.
Close shot, the screen. The arrested close-up of George springs to life again.
Big, see? I don't want one for one night. I want something for 1,001 nights with plenty of room for labels from Italy and Baghdad, Samarkand, and a great big one.
I see. A flying carpet, huh? I don't suppose you'd like this old second-hand job, would you?
He brings a large suitcase up from under the counter.
Now you're talking. Oh, gee whiz. I could use this as a raft in case the boat sunk. How much does this cost?
No charge.
That's my trick here, Joe. It sounded as if you said no charge.
That's right.
What's my name doing on it?
A little present from Old Man Gower. Came down and picked it out himself.
He did? What do you know about that? My old boss.
What boat you sailing on?
I'm working across on a cattle boat.
A cattle boat?
Okay, I like cows.
Wipe to Interior Gower's drugstore day, medium shot. The place is practically the same, except that it is now full of school kids having sodas, etc. A jukebox and many little tables have been added. It has become a hangout of the local small fry. There are now 3 kids jerking sodas. Gower is a different man now, sober, shaven, and good-humored. He is behind the counter when George comes in. Gower's face lights up when he sees George.
Mr. Gower. Oh, Mr. Gower. Oh, thanks ever so much for the bag. It's just exactly what I wanted.
Oh, forget it.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I hope you enjoy it.
George suddenly sees the old cigar lighter on the counter. He closes his eyes and makes a wish.
Oh, I wish I had $1 million.
As he snaps the lighter, the flame springs open.
Hot dog.
George shakes Gower's hand vigorously and exits. Exterior Main Street, Bedford Falls Day. Pan shot as George crosses the street. Uncle Billy, Cousin Tilly, and Cousin Eustace are leaning out of the second floor window of a building in a loan office.
The boss there, Captain Cook. You got your sea legs yet?
Michelle, I think. Cousin Eustace. I don't know if we actually got that. Michelle, if you wanted Cousin Eustace.
Parlez-vous français? Hey, send us some of them picture postcards, will you, George?
Hey, George, don't take any of those plug nickels.
Hey, George, your suitcase is leaking. George waves at them and continues across the street. Exterior Main Street, day, medium shot. As George crosses the street, he spots Ernie in his cab and Bert, the motor cop, alongside.
Hey, Ernie.
Hiya, George.
Hi, Bert.
George.
Ernie, I'm a rich tourist today. How about driving me home in style?
Bert opens the door of the cab and puts George's suitcase inside.
Sure, Your Highness, hop in. And for a carriage trade, I'll put on my hat.
As George is about to enter the cab, he stops suddenly as he sees Violet, now obviously a little sex machine, coming towards him. Her walk and figure would stop anybody. She gives him a sultry look. Reverse angle. The three men in the cab by the cab, but including Violet.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bailey.
Oh, hello, Violet. Hey, you look good. That's some dress you got on there.
Close shot Violet. She reacts to this.
Oh, this old thing? Why, I only wear this when I don't care how I look.
Camera pans with her as Violet swings on down the sidewalk. Reverse shot cab. As Violet goes by, George and Bert raise their hands above the top of the cab. Medium shot on Violet's back as she goes. As she crosses the street, an elderly man turns to look at her and is almost hit by a car that pulls up with screeching brakes. Close shot. George and Bert at cab. Ernie sticks his head out from the driver's seat.
How would you like,
Yes.
want to come along, Bert? We'll show you the town.
Bert looks at his watch, then takes another look at Violet's retreating figure.
No thanks. I think I'll go home and see what the wife's doing.
Family man.
Resolve to interior Bailey dining room night. Medium shot. Pop Bailey is seated at the dinner table. Mrs. Bailey and Annie, the cook, look up towards a vibrating ceiling. What? Okay. There are sounds of terrific banging and scuffling upstairs. Annie pounds on the ceiling with a broom.
George, Harry, you are shaking down the house. Stop it.
Oh, let them alone. I wish I was up there with them.
Harry'll tear his dinner suit. George!
Another angle. Mrs. Bailey is calling up the stairs.
That's why all children should be girls.
But if they were all girls, there wouldn't be any. Oh, never mind. George, Harry, come down to dinner this minute. Everything's getting cold and we've been waiting for you.
Okay, Mom.
She goes up the stairs. Pop is smiling and poking his plate. A commotion is heard on the stairs. The boys imitating fanfare music. Down they come, holding their mother high between them on their hands. They bring her into the dining room and deposit her gracefully on Pop's lap.
Here's a present for you, Pop.
Pop kisses her. Mother gives Pop a quick hug, then turns with all the wrath she can muster on the two boys.
Oh, you two idiots. George, sit down and have dinner. I've eaten. Well, aren't you going to finish dressing for your graduation party? Look at you. I don't care. It's George's tux.
Annie crosses the room holding her broom. Harry reaches out for her.
If you lay a hand on me, I'll hit you with this broom.
Annie, I'm in love with you. There's a moon out tonight.
As he pushes her through the kitchen door, he slaps her fanny. She screams. The noise is cut off by a swinging door. George and his mother sit down at the table.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. My last meal at the old Bailey boarding house.
Oh, my lands, my blood pressure.
Close shot. Harry as he sticks his head through the kitchen door.
Pop, can I have the car? I'm going to take over a lot of plates and things. What plates? Oh, Mom, I'm the chairman of the Eats Committee. We only need a couple dozen. Oh, no, you don't. Harry, now, not my best Haviland.
She follows Harry into the kitchen, leaving Pop and George as she goes.
Oh, let him have the plates, Mother.
Close shot, George and his father eating at the table. There is a great similarity and a great understanding between them.
Hope you have a good trip, George. Uncle Bailey and I are going to miss you.
I'm going to miss you too, Pop. What's the matter? You look tired.
Oh, I had another tussle with the Potter today.
Oh,
I thought when we put him on the board of directors, he'd ease up on us a little bit.
I wonder what's eating that old money grubbing buzzard anyway.
Oh, he's a sick man, frustrated and sick. Sick in his mind, sick in his soul, if he has one. Hates everybody and that has anything that he and hates everybody that has anything that he can't have. Hates us mostly, I guess.
Medium shot, the dining room. Harry and his mother come out from the kitchen. Harry carrying a pie in each hand and balancing one on his head. Camera pans with them as they cross.
Gangway, gangway, so long, Pop.
So long, son.
Got a match?
Very funny, very funny. Put those things in the car and I'll get you your tie and studs together. Okay, Mom. You coming later? You coming later, George?
What do you mean? And be bored to death?
Couldn't want a better death. Lots of pretty girls. We're gonna be using that new floor of yours tonight, too.
I hope it works.
No gin tonight, son.
Pop, just a little.
No, son, not one drop.
Close shot, George and Pop at the table. Annie comes in with some dishes.
Boys and girls and music. Why do they need gin?
She exits.
Father, did I act like that when I graduated from high school?
Pretty much. You know, George, wish we could send Harry to college with you. Your mother and I talked it over half the night.
We have that all figured out. You see, Harry will take my job at the building and loan and work there 4 years, then he'll go.
He's pretty young for that job.
Well, no younger than I was.
Maybe you were born older, George.
How's that?
I said maybe you were born older. I suppose you decided what you're going to do when you get out of college.
Oh, well, you know what? I've always talked about, well, build things, design new buildings, plan modern cities, all that stuff I was talking about.
Still after that first million before you're 30?
No, I'll settle for about half that in cash.
Annie comes in again from the kitchen.
Of course, it's just a hope, but you wouldn't consider coming back to the building and loan, would you?
Annie stops serving to hear his answer.
Well, Annie, why don't you draw up a chair? Then you'd be more comfortable and you could hear everything that's going on.
What if I thought I'd hear anything worth listening to?
You would, huh?
She gives George a look and goes out onto the kitchen. Bailey smiles and turns to George.
I know it's soon to talk about it.
Oh, now, Pop, I couldn't. I couldn't face being cooped up for the rest of my life in a shabby little office.
He stops, realizing that he's hurt his father.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pop. I didn't mean that remark, but this business of nickels and dimes and spending all your life trying to figure out how to save 3 cents on a length of pipe, I'd go crazy. I want to do something big and something important.
You know, George, I feel that in a small way, we are doing something important, satisfying a fundamental urge. It's deep in the race of man who wants an own roof and walls and a fireplace. We're helping him get those things in our shabby little office.
I know, Dad. I wish I felt, but I've been hoarding pennies like a miser in order to. Most of my friends have already finished college. I just feel like I don't get anywhere. I don't get any. Anyway, I'd bust.
Yes, you're right, son.
You see what I mean, don't you, Pop?
This town is no place for any man unless he's willing to crawl to Potter. You've got talent, son. You get yourself an education, then get out of here.
Do you want a shot? I think you're a great guy.
To cover his embarrassment, he looks towards the kitchen and calls.
Oh, did you hear? Did you hear that, Annie?
Close shot, Annie listening through the glass door.
I
Glass
heard
window.
it. About time one of you lunkheads said it.
Close shot, George and his father at the table.
I'm going to miss old Annie Pop. I think I'll get dressed and go over to Harry's party.
Have a good time, son.
Wipe to interior high school gym night. Medium close-up shot. At one end of the room, an orchestra is playing. George wends his way through the dancing couples towards a supper table. He and Harry are carrying plates and pies.
Oh, here you are.
Several of the boys take the plates from him. George looks at them, feeling very grown up and out of place.
You know my kid brother, George. I'm going to put him through college.
Sam Wainwright comes in behind Harry, waggles his hands at his ears as he talks.
Here comes George. Hello. Here. Oh.
George swings around, delighted to hear a familiar voice, wider angle, including Sam and Marty Hatch. Sam is assured and breezy, wearing very collegiate clothes.
Oh, Sam Wainwright. How are you? When did you get here?
Oh, this afternoon. I thought I'd give the kids a treat.
Old college graduate now, huh?
Yeah. Old Joe College Wainwright, they call me. Well, freshman, looks like you're going to make it after all.
Yep.
Sam sees Harry and leaves George in the middle of a gesture.
Harry, you're the guy I want to see. Coach has heard all about you.
He has?
Yeah, he's followed every game and his mouth's watering. He wants me to find out if you're going to come along with us.
Well, I got to make some dough first.
Well, you better make it fast. We need great ends like you, not broken down old guys like this one.
George and Sam wiggle their fingers in their ears, saluting each other.
Yeah.
Hee-haw!
An elderly, fussy school principal comes over to George. George, welcome back.
Hello, Mr. Partridge. How are you?
Putting a pool under this floor was a great idea. Saved us another building. Now, Harry, Sam, have a lot of fun. There's lots to do, lots of stuff to eat and drink, lots of pretty girls around. Violet Bitt comes into the scene and turns to face George. She is waving her dance program at him.
Hey, George.
Oh, hello, Violet.
Hello. What am I bid?
Marty Hatch enters the scene.
George,
Hiya, Marty. Well, it's old home week.
do me a favor, will you, George?
What's that?
Well, you remember my kid sister, Mary.
Oh, yeah.
Mama wants you, Marty. Mama wants you, Marty. Remember?
Dance with her, will you?
Oh, me? Oh, well, I feel funny enough already with all these kids.
Oh, come on, be a sport. Just dance with her one time and you'll give her the thrill of her life.
Aw, go on.
Hey, sis.
Well, excuse me, Violet. Don't be long, Marty. I don't want to be a wet nurse for...
He stops suddenly as he sees Marty staring at her. Close up, Mary Hatch. She is standing talking to one of the boys, Freddie, a glass of punch in her hand. For the first time, she is wearing an evening gown, and she has gained assurance from the admiration of the boy with her. She turns around, and for the first time, she sees George. For a second, she loses her poise, staring at him.
And the next thing I know, some guy came up and tripped me. That's the reason I came in fourth, if it hadn't been for that.
Close shot, George staring at Mary.
That race would have been a cinch. I tried to find out who it was later.
Close up, Mary, still staring at George and smiling.
I couldn't find out. Nobody'd ever tell you whoever it was because they'd be scared. They know.
Medium close up, Mary and Freddie. Marty comes into the scene, followed by George.
What kind of...
You remember George? This is Mary. Well, I'll be seeing you.
Well.
Now, to get back to my story. See,
Mary hands her punch cup to Freddie, and she and George start dancing.
hey, this is my dance.
Oh, why don't you stop annoying people?
Well, I'm sorry. Hey,
Moving shot, following George and Mary as they dance.
Well, hello.
hello. You look at me as if you didn't know me.
Well, I don't.
You've passed me on the street almost every day.
Me?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Well, that was a little girl named Mary Hatch. That wasn't you.
A whistle is heard off screen and the music stops. Close shot. Harry on the orchestra performs, whistle in hand.
Away, away, away. The big Charleston contest. The prize, a genuine loving cup. Those not tapped by the judges will remain on the floor. Let's go.
Close up, George and Mary. As the music starts, the couple begins to dance once more and they look at each other.
I'm not very good at this.
Neither am I.
Okay, well, what can we lose?
They start their Charleston. We see a series of shots of various couples doing their routine, some good, some bad. Close up Freddie, leaning against the railing around the dance floor, looking daggers at George. Mickey, a young punk who has had one too many, is beside him.
What's the matter, Othello? Jealous? Did you know there's a swimming pool under this floor? And did you know that button behind you causes this floor to open up? And did you further know that George Bailey is dancing right over that crack? And I've got the key.
Freddie needs no more. He takes the key from Mickey and turns the switch. The floor begins to part in the middle, each half sliding under the bleacher seats. Pandemonium starts. Dancers begin to scream as they try to get off. Some are so engrossed in dancing that they continue at top speed. Teachers and elders start to scurry off. As the floor opens, it reveals an attractive, lighted swimming pool. George and Mary are so busy dancing, they don't notice the floor opening. Spotlights concentrate on them. They mistake the screams for cheers. Close shot, George and Mary dancing.
They're cheering us, so we must be good.
Medium close shot. The crowd watches George and Mary dancing. They move backwards until finally they reach the end of the floor and fall into the pool below. Series of shots. George and Mary still trying to dance in the water. The crowd on the edge cheering them. Some of the crowd leap into the pool. The principal, trying to restore order, finally clasps his hands like a diver and leaps in himself. Fade out, fade in. Exterior tree-lined residential streets night. Medium close-up shot. George and Mary. The night is warm with a bright moon. George is dressed in jersey sweater and oversized football pants that keep wanting to come down. Mary is in an old white bathrobe. Each is carrying their wet clothes tied in a bundle that leaves a trail of dripping water. As they near the camera, we hear them singing.
Buffalo girls,
can't you
come out tonight? Come out tonight. Can't you come out tonight? Buffalo gals, can't you come out tonight?
And
Dance by the light of the moon. Hot dog, just like an organ.
Beautiful.
Camera moves with them as they proceed down the street.
And I told Harry I thought I'd be bored to death. You should have seen the commotion in that locker room. I had to knock down 3 people to get this stuff we're wearing here. Here, let me hold that old wet dress of yours.
He takes a bundle of clothes from Mary. They stop and look at each other.
Do I look as funny as you do?
I guess I'm not quite the football type. You look wonderful. You know, if it wasn't me talking, I'd say you were the prettiest girl in town.
Well, why don't you say it?
I don't know. Maybe I will say it. How old are you anyway?
18.
18? Why, it was only last year you were 17.
Too young or too old?
Oh, no, you're right. Your age fits you. Yes, sir. You look a little older without your clothes on.
Mary stops George to cover his embarrassment. Talks quickly on.
I mean, without a dress. You look older. I mean, younger. You look just...
In his confusion, George steps on the end of the belt of Mary's bathrobe, which is trailing along behind her. She gathers the robe around her.
Oh!
Sir, my train, please.
A pox upon me for a clumsy lout.
He picks up the belt and throws it over her arm.
Your caboose, my lady.
You may kiss my hand.
Mm.
Holding her hand, George moves in closer to Mary.
Hey, Mary.
Mary turns away from him, singing Buffalo Gals.
As I was lumbering down the street.
George looks after her, then picks up a rock from the street.
Okay, then. I'll throw a rock at the old Granville house.
Oh, no, don't. I love that old house.
Medium long shot old house. It's a weather-beaten, old-fashioned two-story house that once was no doubt resplendent.
No, you see, you make a wish and then try and break some glass. You got to be a pretty good shot nowadays, too.
Medium close-up shot George and Mary.
Oh, no, George, don't. It's full of romance, that old place. I'd like to live in it.
In that place?
Uh-huh.
Well, I wouldn't live in it as a ghost. I mean, now watch. Right on the second floor there.
Medium long shot old house. George hurls a rock at the house. We hear the sound of a window breaking. Exterior front porch of house, night. Close shot. We see a grumpy old man in shirt sleeves and a rocking chair on the porch. He looks up as he hears a breaking glass. Exterior street, night. Close up, George and Mary.
What'd you wish, George?
Well, not just one wish, a whole hatful, Mary. I know what I'm going to do tomorrow and the next day and the next year and the year after that. I'm shaking the dust off this crummy little town off my feet, and I'm going to see the world. Italy, Greece, the Parthenon and the Colosseum. And then I'm coming back here and go to college and see what they know. And then I'm going to build things. I'm going to build airfields. I'm going to build skyscrapers 100 stories high. I'm going to build bridges a mile long.
As he talks, Mary has been listening intently. She finally stoops down and picks up a rock, weighting it in her hand.
Are you going to throw a rock?
Medium long shot, old deserted house. Mary throws her rock, and once more we hear the sound of breaking glass.
Hey, that was pretty good. What
Mary
did you
looks at
wish?
it- Sorry. Mary looks at him provocatively, then turns and shuffles off down the street, singing as she goes. George hurries after her.
Buffalo gals, don't you come out tonight?
George joins her in the singing, and they proceed down the street.
Can't you
Come out tonight? Can't you come out tonight? Buffalo girls, can't you come out tonight
And
and
dance
dance by the
by
light of the
the
moon? What did you wish when you threw that rock?
Close shot, man on the porch of the house, listening to George and Mary. Medium close up, George and Mary. They have all stopped walking and now face one another.
Oh no.
Come on, tell me.
If I told you, it might not come true.
What is it you want, Mary? What do you want? You want the moon? Well, just say.
Long shot, full moon shining through the trees. Back to shot, George and Mary.
The word, and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. Hey, that's a pretty good idea. I'll give you the moon, Mary.
I'll take it. And then what?
Well, then you could swallow it and it'd all dissolve, see? And the moonbeams would shoot out of your fingers and your toes and the ends of your hair. Am I talking too much?
Medium close
Medium.
up, man on the porch of the house. As George finishes talking, he jumps up out of his chair.
Yes, why don't you kiss her instead of talking her to death?
Close shot, George and Mary.
How's that?
Medium shot, man on porch.
Why don't you kiss her instead of talking her to death?
Close shot, George and Mary.
You want me to kiss her, huh?
Close shot, porch of house.
Ah, youth is wasted on the wrong people.
As he speaks, the man leaves the porch and goes into his house, slamming the front door. Close shot, George and Mary.
Hey, hold on. Hey, mister, come on back out here and I'll show you some kissing that will put hair back on your head. What are you?
Mary runs off scene. George George has been once more standing on the belt of her bathrobe, so as she goes, her robe comes off.
Mary!
He drops her bundle of clothes and picks up Mary's robe. He cannot see her anymore.
Okay, I give up. Where are you?
Close up bush at edge of sidewalk. We see Mary's face peering out from the leaves.
Over here in the hydrangea bushes.
Medium close shot, George and Mary. George walks toward the bush.
Here you are. Catch.
He is about to throw her the robe when a thought strikes him.
Wait a minute. What am I doing? This is a very interesting situation.
Please give me my robe.
A man doesn't get in a situation like this every day.
I'd like to have my robe.
Not in Bedford Falls, anyway.
Mary thrashes around in the bushes. We hear her say,
Ouch!
Gesundheit. This requires a little thought here.
George Bailey, give me my robe.
I've heard about things like this, but I've never.
Shame on you. I'm going to tell your mother on you.
Oh, my mother's way up the corner there.
I'll call the police.
They're way downtown. They'd be on my side too.
I'm going to scream.
Maybe I should sell tickets. Let's see. No, the point is, in order to get this robe, I've got it. I'll make a deal with you, Mary.
headlights flash onto the scene, and the old Bailey automobile drives in with Harry at the wheel and Uncle Billy beside him.
George, George, come on home quick. Your father's had a stroke.
George throws Mary's robe over the bush and gets into the car.
Oh, Mary, I'm sorry. I've got to go.
Come on, George, let's hurry.
Did you get a doctor?
Yes, Campbell's there now.
Close up the hydrangea bush. As the car drives off, Mary, now wearing the robe, rises up from the bush and follows the car with her eyes. Fade out, fade in. Interior Bailey Building and Loan Office sign over entrance. Interior Bailey Building and Loan Office Day, close shot directors meeting. There are about 12 directors seated around the long table. They are the substantial citizens of Bedford Falls. Dr. Campbell, a lawyer, an insurance agent, a real estate salesman, etc. Prominently seated among them is Harry F. Potter, his goon beside his wheelchair. Uncle Billy and George are seated among the directors. The chairman of the board is Dr. Campbell. They have folders and papers before them, on which they have been reporting. Before each of the directors, there are individual reports for them to study. I think that's all we need for you. George, I know you're anxious to make a train.
I have a taxi waiting downstairs.
I want the board to know that George gave up his trip to Europe to help straighten things out here these past few months. Good luck to you at school, George.
Thanks.
Now we come to the real purpose of this meeting, to appoint a successor to our dear friend, Peter Bailey.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to get my real purpose. Wait a minute now. Wait for what? I claim this institution is not necessary for this town. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to dissolve this institution and turn its assets and liabilities over to the receiver.
George, you hear what that buzzard?
Mr. Chairman, it's too soon after Peter Bailey's death to discuss chloroforming the building and loan. Peter Bailey died 3 months ago. I second Mr. Potter's motion.
Very well. In that case, I'll ask the two executive officers to withdraw. Dr. Campbell rises from his seat. George and Uncle Billy start to collect the papers and leave the table. But before you go, I'm sure the whole board wishes to express its deep sorrow at the passing of Peter Bailey.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was his faith and devotion that are responsible for this organization.
I'll go further than that. I'll say that to the public, Peter Bailey was the building and loan.
Everyone looks at him surprised.
Oh, that's fine, Potter, coming from you, considering you probably drove him to his grave.
Peter Bailey was not a businessman. That's what killed him. Oh, I don't mean any disrespect to him, God rest his soul. He was a man of high ideals, so-called, but ideas without common sense can ruin this town. Now, you take this loan here to Ernie Bishop. You know that fellow that sits around all day on his brains in his taxi? You know, I happen to know the bank turned down his loan, but he comes here and we're building him a house worth $5,000. Why?
George is at the door of the office holding his coat and papers, ready to leave.
Well, I handled that, Mr. Potter. You have all the papers there, his salary, insurance. I can personally vouch for his character.
A friend of yours?
Yes, sir.
You see, if you shoot pool with some employee here, you can come and borrow money. What does that get us? A discontented, lazy rabble instead of a thrifty working class. And all become a few starry-eyed dreamers like Peter Bailey. Stir them up and fill their heads with a lot of impossible ideas. Now I say,
George puts down his coat and comes around to the table, incensed by what Potter is saying about his father.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Now, hold on, Mr. Potter. You're right when you say my father was no businessman. I know that. Why he ever started this cheap penny ante building and loan, I'll never know. But neither you nor anybody else can say anything against his character because his whole life was, why, in the 25 years since he and Uncle Billy started this thing, he never once thought of himself. Isn't that right, Uncle Billy? He didn't save enough money to send Harry to school, let alone me, but he did help a few people get out of their slums. Your slums, Mr. Potter, and that, what's wrong with that? Why, here, you're all businessmen here. Doesn't it make them better citizens? Doesn't it make them better customers? You said, what did you say just a minute ago? They had to wait and save their money before they even ought to think of a decent home. Wait for what? Until their children grow up and leave them? Until they're so old and broken down that they... Do you know how long it takes a working man to save $5,000? Just remember this, Mr. Potter, that this rabble you're talking about, they do most of the working and paying and living and dying in this community. Well, is it too much to have them work and pay and live and die in a couple of decent rooms and a bath? Anyway, my father didn't think so. People were human beings to him. But to you, a warped, frustrated old man, they're cattle. Well, in my book, he died a much richer man than you'll ever be.
I'm not interested in your book. I'm talking about the building and loan.
I know very well what you're talking about. You're talking about something you can't get your fingers on, and it's galling you. That's what you're talking about. I know. Well, I've said too much. You're the board here. You do what you want with this thing. Just one thing more, though. This town needs this measly one-horse institution, if only to have some place where people can come without crawling to Potter. Oh, come on, Uncle Billy.
George leaves the room, followed by a jubilant Uncle Billy. Potter's face is grim with hatred. The frustrated old man remark has gall in his veins. Was gall.
Sentimental hogwash. I want my motion.
He's interrupted by the babble of talk as the directors take up the argument. Interior, outer office, building and loan day. Medium close shot. George, visibly shaken, is busy with his bag, his papers. He's worried about the outcome of the meeting. Dissolving the building and loan will alter his plans. Uncle Billy follows him around, chattering.
Boy, oh boy, that was telling him, George, old boy. You shut his big mouth. You should have heard him.
What happened? We heard a lot of yelling.
Well, we're being voted out of business after 25 years. Easy come, easy go.
Here it is. Help wanted, female. Medium close shot, doorway to office. Ernie is in the doorway.
You still want me to hang around, George?
Medium close shot, George and the others.
Yeah, I'll be right there.
Hey, you missed your train. You're a week late for school already. Go on.
I wonder what's going on in there.
Oh, never mind. Don't worry about that. They're putting us out of business. So what? I can get another job. I'm only 55.
56.
Go on. Go on. Hey, look. You gave up your boat trip. Now you don't want to miss college too, do you?
Dr. Campbell comes running out, all excited. George! George! They voted Potter down! They want to keep it going! Cousin Eustace, Cousin Tilly, and Uncle Bill cheer wildly. Dr. Campbell and George shake hands.
Woohoo!
Well, but they've got one condition. Only one condition.
What's that?
Well, that's the best part of it. They've appointed George here as executive secretary to take his father's place.
Oh no, but Uncle Billy.
Well, you can keep him on. That's all right. As secretary, you can hire anyone you like.
Dr. Campbell, now let's get this thing straight. I mean, I'm leaving. I'm leaving right now. I'm going to school. This is my last chance. Uncle Billy here, he's your man.
But George, they'll vote with Potter otherwise. Lap dissolved. Exterior sky night. The same stars we saw in the opening sequence are once more twinkling as we hear the voices from heaven. I know he didn't go.
That's right. Not only that, but he gave his school money to his brother Harry and sent him to college. Harry became a football star, made second team All-American.
Yes, but what happened to George? Lap dissolved. Exterior railroad station day 4 years later, medium shot. Characteristic activity. A number of people waiting for the train. Uncle Billy is seated on the baggage wagon eating peanuts as George paces up and down in front of him.
George got 4 years older, waiting for Harry to come back and take over the building and loan.
Oh, there are plenty of jobs around for somebody that likes to travel. Look at this. There, Venezuela oil fields. Wanted man with construction experience. Here's the Yukon right here. Wanted man with engineering experience.
The whistle of the approaching train is heard.
There she blows. You know what the 3 most exciting sounds in the world are?
Uh-huh. Breakfast is served, lunch is served, dinner
No, no, no,
served.
no, 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 no. Anchor chains, plane motors, and train whistles.
Peanut.
Wipe 2 exterior train day, medium shot. The train comes to a stop and Harry is among the first to get off, followed by an attractive girl about the same age he is. George rushes into the shot and as the brothers embrace.
There's the professor now, old Professor Phi Beta Kappa Bailey, All-American.
Well, if it isn't old George Geographic Explorer Bailey. What? No husky dogs? No sled? Uncle Billy, you haven't changed a bit.
Nobody ever changes around here. You know that.
Oh, I am so glad to see you.
Say, where's Mother?
She's home cooking the fatted calf. Come on, let's go.
Oh, wait a minute.
Close shot. The group, including Ruth Dakin. This is the young lady who came off the train with Harry. In the excitement of greetings, she has been momentarily forgotten. She stands, smiling, waiting.
Hello.
How do you do?
Ruth Dakin.
Ruth Dakin Bailey, if you don't mind.
George and Uncle Billy stare, astonished.
Huh?
Well, I wired you had a surprise. Here she is. Meet the wife.
George is thunderstruck. He takes Ruth's hand.
Well, what do you know? Wife.
Well, how do you do? Oh, congratulations, congratulations. What am I doing?
He kisses Ruth. Camera moves with them down the platform.
Harry, why didn't you tell somebody? What's a pretty girl like you doing marrying this 2-headed brother of mine?
Well, I'll tell you, it's purely mercenary. My father offered him a job.
George stops with a sinking feeling. Uncle Billy and Ruth continue out of shot. Harry stops with George.
Oh, well, he gets you and a job. Well, Harry's cup runneth over.
George, about that job. Ruth spoke out of turn. I never said I'd take it. You've been holding the bag here for 4 years and, well, I won't let you down, George. I would like to. Wait a minute. I forgot the bags. I'll be right back.
He runs out of the shot, George watching him. Close shot. George slowly moves after Uncle Billy and Ruth. He's thinking deeply.
It was a surprise to me. This is the new Mrs. Bailey, my nephew's wife. Old friend of the family.
Oh, of course. I've heard him speak of you.
And I want to tell you, we're going to give the biggest party this town ever saw.
Camera moves with George as he comes into the scene. Ruth detaches herself from the group and offers George some popcorn.
Here, have some popcorn. George, George, George. That's all Harry ever talks about.
Ruth, what about this job?
Oh, well, my father owns a glass factory in Buffalo. He wants to get Harry started in the research business.
Is it a good job?
Oh, yes, very. Not much money, but a good future, you know? Harry's a genius at research. My father fell in love with him.
And you did too?
Ruth nods, smiling. Wipe to exterior front porch Bailey home night, medium close shot. Cousin Eustace is taking a photograph of the family group assembled on the porch. Flash bulbs go off, and the group breaks up. The crowd enters the front door of the house, leaving George and Uncle Billy on the porch. Close shot, George and Uncle Billy. The latter is tipsy. He feels very high.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I feel so good I could spit in Potter's eye. I think I will. What'd you say, huh? Well, maybe I better go home.
He looks around for his hat, which is on his head.
Where's my hat? Where's my...
George takes the hat from Uncle Billy's head and hands it to him.
Oh, thank you, George. Which one's mine?
The middle one.
Oh, thank you, George. Oh boy, boy. Now, like if you point me in the right direction, would you do that, George?
Right down here.
They descend the porch steps, and George turns his uncle around and heads him down the street.
Oh, building alone, pal, huh?
Now you just turn this way and go right straight down.
That way, huh?
He staggers out of the scene, and as George turns away, we hear Uncle Billy singing My Wild Irish Rose. There is a crash of cans and bottles, then
I'm all right. I'm all right. The sweetest flower that ever grows.
exterior house night, medium close shot. George is standing in the garden gate. He takes some travel folders from his pocket, looks at them and throws them away. He is obviously disturbed about the latest turn of events. His mother comes out of the house and kisses him.
Hello, Mom.
That's for nothing. How do you like her?
She nods towards the house, where Harry and Ruth, among the crowd of other people, are dancing to the music of a phonograph and can be seen through the front door.
She's swell.
Looks like she can keep Harry on his toes.
Keep him out of Bedford Falls, anyway.
Did you know that Mary Hatch is back from school?
Mm-hmm.
Came back 3 days ago. Nice girl, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Kind that will help you find your answers, George.
Hmm.
Oh, stop that grunting.
Hmm.
Can you give me one good reason why you shouldn't call Mary?
Sure. Sam Wainwright. Yes, Sam's crazy about Mary.
Well, she's not crazy about him.
Well, how do you know? Did she discuss it with you?
No.
Well, then how do you know?
Well, I have eyes, haven't I? Why, she lights up like a firefly whenever you're around.
Oh.
And besides, Sam Wainwright's away in New York and you're here in Bedford Falls.
And all's fair in love and war?
I don't know about war.
Mother, you know, I can see right through you, right back to your back collar button. Trying to get rid of me, huh?
Uh-huh.
They kiss. Mrs. Bailey puts George's hat on his head.
Well, Here's your hat. What's your hurry? All right, mother. Old building and loan, pal. I think I'll go out and find a girl and do a little passionate necking.
Oh, George.
Now, if you'll just point me in the right direction. This direction? Good night, Mrs. Bailey.
Wipe to exterior Main Street, Bedford Falls, night. Close shot. George is standing in the middle of the street, hands in his pockets. As a girl passes, he turns and watches her for a moment. He's obviously undecided as to what he wants to do. Exterior Violet Bix Beauty Shop, night. Medium shot. Violet is locking up for the night. A couple of men are crowding around her. Each one is bent on taking her out. There is laughter, kidding and pawing. She looks up and sees George standing there.
Excuse me.
Now, wait a minute.
I think I've got a date, but stick around, fellas, just in case, huh?
We'll wait for you, baby.
Camera pans with Violet as she crosses the street to George. Medium close shot, George and Violet.
Hello, Georgie Porgy.
Hello, Vi.
He looks her over. Violet takes her beauty shop seriously, and she's an eyeful. She senses the fact that George is far from immune to her attractions. She links her arm in his and continues down the street with him. Close moving shot, George and Violet.
What gives?
Nothing.
Where are you going?
Oh, I'll probably end up down at the library.
They stop walking and face one another.
George, don't you ever get tired of just reading about things?
Her eyes are seductive and guileful as she looks up at him. He is silent for a moment, then blurts out.
Yes. What are you doing tonight?
Not a thing.
Are you game, Vi? Let's make a night of it.
Oh, I love it, Georgie. What do we do?
Well, let's go out in the fields and take off our shoes and walk through the grass.
Huh?
Then we can go up to the falls. It's beautiful up there in the moonlight. And there's a green pool up there, and we can swim in it. And then we can climb Mount Bedford and smell the pines. And we'll stay up there the whole night, and everybody will be talking, and there'll be a terrific scandal.
George, have you gone crazy? Walk in the grass in my bare feet? Why, it's 10 miles up to Mount Bedford. If you think just because you...
By this time, a small crowd is collected to watch the above scene. Violet is furious and talking in a loud voice, and George is trying to quiet her. Finally,
Okay, just forget about the whole thing.
as George stalks off, the crowd breaks into laughter, and we wipe to exterior residential night, street night, close shot. George is walking slowly past the Hatch home. He stares meditatively at the simple dwelling, then he starts walking ahead. But after a few steps, he turns around and starts back. He walks past the house a few yards, turns, then starts back again. Interior bedroom window, Hatch home, night, close shot. Mary is looking out the window, watching George walk back and forth.
What are you doing? Picketing?
George stops, startled, and looks up.
Oh, hello, Mary. I just happened to be passing by.
Yeah, so I noticed. Have you made up your mind?
How's that?
Have you made up your mind
About what?
about coming in? Your mother just phoned and said you were on your way over to pay me a visit.
Exterior street night, medium long shot. George looks surprised at this.
My mother just called you? Well, how did she know?
Didn't you tell her?
I didn't tell anybody. I just went for a walk and happened to be passing by.
But Mary has disappeared from the window.
What do you... Went for a walk. I mean, that's all.
Interior Hatch home night, medium close shot. Mary's running down the stairs.
I'll be downstairs, Mother.
All right, dear.
Mary looks in the mirror at the bottom of the stairs and fixes her hair. She is plainly excited at George's visit. She runs into the parlor and puts a sketch on an easel. Insert the sketch. It is a caricature of George throwing a lasso around the moon. Lettering on the drawing says, George lassos the moon. Back to the shot. Mary runs into the hall, opens a phonograph and puts on a record of Buffalo Gals. Then she opens the front door and stands there waiting for George. Interior, doorway, night, medium close shot. George is struggling at the gate. He finally kicks it open and starts slowly up the path towards Mary.
Well, are you coming in or aren't you?
Well, I'll come in for a minute, but I didn't tell anybody I was coming over here.
Close shot. Mary and George are in the entrance hall.
When did you get back?
Tuesday.
Where'd you get that dress?
Do you like it?
It's all right. I thought you'd go back to New York like Sam and Ingy and the rest of them.
Oh, I worked there for a couple of vacations, but I don't know. I guess I was homesick.
Homesick? For Bedford Falls?
Yes, and my family and oh, everything. Would you like to sit down?
They go through the doorway into the parlor.
All right. For a minute, just a minute. I still can't understand it though. You know I didn't tell anybody I was coming here.
Would you rather leave?
No, I don't want to be rude.
Well, then sit down.
George sees the cartoon on the easel and bends down for a close look at it.
Some joke, huh?
Close shot. George and Mary sitting in the divan. He is uncomfortable and she tries desperately to keep the conversation alive.
Well, I see it still smells like pine needles in here.
Thank you.
There's silence for a moment. Then Mary joins in the singing with the phonograph record, which has been playing all through the above scene.
And dance by the light.
What's the matter? Oh, yeah.
He looks at his watch as though about to leave.
Well,
It was nice about your brother Harry and Ruth, wasn't it?
oh, yeah. That's all right.
Don't you like her?
Well, of course I like her. She's a peach.
Oh, it's just marriage in general you're not enthusiastic about, huh?
No, marriage is all right for Harry and Marty and Sam and you.
Interior stairs, medium shot close. Mrs. Hatch, in a bathrobe, with her hair in curlers, is leaning over the banister and she calls.
Mary, Mary.
Interior parlor night, close shot. George and Mary seated on the divan.
Who's down there with you?
It's George Bailey, Mother.
George Bailey. What's he want?
I don't know. What do you want?
Me? Well, not a thing. I just came in to get warm.
He's making violent love to me, Mother.
George is aghast.
You tell him to go right back home and don't you leave the house either. Sam Rainwright promised to call you from New York tonight.
But your mother needn't. You know I didn't come here to.
What did you come here for?
I don't know. You tell me. You're supposed to be the one that has all the answers. You tell me.
Oh, why don't you go home?
That's where I'm going. I don't know why I came here in the first place. Oh, good night.
As George leaves the room, the telephone in the hall starts ringing.
Good night.
Mary, the telephone. It's Sam.
Interior hall night, medium close shot. Mary comes into the hall.
I'll get it.
As Mary comes into the hall, she stops by the phonograph, which is still playing Buffalo Gals, takes off the record with a jerk and smashes it against the machine. The phone is still ringing.
Mary, he's waiting.
Hello.
As Mary picks up the phone, George comes in from the front porch.
I forgot my hat.
Hee-haw. Hello, Sam. How are you?
Great. Gee, it's good to hear your voice again.
George has stopped, hat in hand, to hear the first greeting.
Oh, well, that's awfully sweet of you, Sam. There's an old friend of yours here, George Bailey. You mean old Mossback George? Yes, old Mossback George. Hee-haw, put him on. Wait a minute, I'll call him. George!
He doesn't want to speak to you, George. He doesn't want to speak to George, you idiot.
Oh, he does so. He asked for him. George, Sam wants to speak to you.
Hands the instrument to George.
Hello, Sam.
Interior Sam's New York office night, medium close shot. Sam is seated at his desk while a couple of his friends are nearby with highballs in their hands.
Well, George Baileyovsky. Hey, a fine pal you are. What are you trying to do? Steal my girl?
Interior Hatch Hall night, medium close shot, George and Mary.
What do you mean? Nobody's trying to steal your girl. Here's Mary.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I want to talk to both of you. Tell Mary to get on the extension.
Here, you take it. You tell him.
Mother's on the extension.
Interior upper hallway night. Close shot, Mrs. Hatch. As she hears this, she hastily hangs up the extension phone on which she has been listening. Back to shot, George and Mary.
We can both hear. Come here.
Mary takes the telephone from George and holds it so that, of necessity, George's cheek is almost against hers. He is very conscious of her proximity.
We're listening, Sam. Well, I have a big deal coming up that's going to make us all rich. George, you remember that night in Martini's bar when you told me to read someplace about making plastics out of soybeans?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Soybeans, yeah.
Well, Dad snapped up the idea. He's going to build a factory outside of Rochester. How do you like that?
Mary is watching George interestedly. George is very conscious of her, close to him.
Rochester, huh? Oh, well, why Rochester?
Well, why not? Can't you think of anything better?
Oh, I don't know. Why not right here? I mean, you remember that old tool and machinery works? You tell your father he can get that for a song and all the labor he wants, too. Half the town is thrown out of work when they close down.
That's so. Well, I'll tell him. Hey, that sounds great. Oh, baby, I knew you'd come through. Now, here's the point, Mary. Mary, you're in on this too. Now, listen, have you got any money?
Money? Yeah, well, little.
Well, now listen, I want you to put every cent you've got into our stock, you hear? And George, I may have a job for you. That is, unless you're still married to that broken down building alone. This is the biggest thing since radio, and I'm letting you in on the ground floor. Oh, Mary, I'm here. Would you tell that guy I'm giving him the chance of a lifetime, you hear? The chance of a lifetime.
As Mary listens, she turns to look at George, her lips almost on his lips.
He says it's the chance of a lifetime.
George can stand it no longer. He drops the phone with a crash, grabs Mary by the shoulders and shakes her. Mary begins to cry.
Now you listen to me. I don't want any plastics. I don't want any ground floors. I don't want to get married ever to anyone. You understand that? I want to do what I want to do, and you're.
He pulls her to him in fierce embrace. Two meant for each other find themselves in tearful ecstasy.
Oh, Mary.
George.
Mary.
Close shot. Mrs. Hatch is at the top of the stairs. She practically faints at what she is seeing. Wipes to interior front hall Bailey home day several months later. Close up. Cousin Tilly's face fills the screen as she cries, "Here they come!" Camera pulls back and we hear the sounds of the wedding march. People are crowded into the rooms. Family, friends, neighbors. There is a din of conversation. Mary and George appear at the top of the stairs in traveling clothes, with Mrs. Hatch red-eyed behind them. Mary throws her bouquet, which is caught by Violet Bick. As they come out onto the porch, we see that it is raining. Nevertheless, Cousin Eustace has his camera equipment set up and taking pictures of the group. George and Mary dodge through the rain and a shower of rice and get into Ernie's taxi cab, which pulls away from the curb. Exterior shot of Bailey's house day. Close shot. Mrs. Bailey and Annie, the maid.
First Harry and now George. Annie, we're just two old maids now.
You speak for yourself, Mrs. B.
Interior Ernie's cab day. Close shot. George and Mary and Ernie. George and Mary are in each other's arms.
If either of you two see a stranger around here, it's me.
Hey, look! Somebody's driving this cab.
Ernie reaches over and hands George a bottle of champagne done up in gift wrapping.
Bert the cop sent this over. He said, float away to happy land on the bubbles.
Oh, look at this. Champagne.
Good old Bert.
By the way, where are you two going on this here now honeymoon?
Where are we going? Look at this. There's the kitty, Ernie. Here, come on, count it, Mary.
I feel like a bootlegger's wife. Look.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to shoot the works. A whole week in New York, a whole week in Bermuda, the highest hotels, the oldest champagne, the richest caviar, the hottest music, and the prettiest wife.
That does it. Then what?
Then what, honey?
After that, who cares?
That does it. Come here.
The cab passes the bank, and Ernie sees a crowd of people around the door. He stops the cab, long shot. Scurrying people under umbrellas, swarming around the bank doors. Panic is in the air. Attendants are trying to close down. Several people come running past the cab. Interior cab, close shot. George, Mary, and Ernie.
Don't look now, but there's something funny happening over there at the bank. George, I've never really seen one, but that's got all the earmarks of a run.
Hey, Ernie, if you got any money in the bank, you better hurry.
George, let's not stop. Let's go.
George gets out of the cab and looks down the street.
Oh, just a minute, dear. Oh,
Please, let's not stop. George.
I'll be back in a minute, Mary.
George runs off up the street toward the building and loan. Exterior building and loan day. Close shot, sidewalk. An iron grill blocks the street entrance to the building and loan. It has been locked. A crowd of men and women are waiting around the grill. They are simply dressed people, to whom their savings are a matter of life and death. George comes in with an assumed cheerful manner. The people look at him silently, half shamefaced, but grimly determined on their rights. In their hearts, there is panic and fear.
Hello, everybody. Mrs. Thompson, how are you? Charlie, what's the matter here? Can't you get in?
No one answers. He quickly unlocks the grill door and pushes it open, followed by the crowd. George runs upstairs and into the outer offices of the building and loan. Interior, outer office, building and loan day, medium close shot. George, followed by the still silent people, comes in. Uncle Billy is standing in the doorway to his private office, taking a drink from a bottle. He motions to George to join him.
What is this, Uncle Billy? A holiday?
George.
He points to George's office. George turns back cheerfully to the crowd.
Come on in, everybody. That's right. Just come in.
George vaults over the counter.
Now look, why don't you all sit down? There are a lot of seats over there. Just make yourselves at home.
George, can I see you a minute?
The people ignore George and remain standing in front of the teller's window. They all have their passbooks out. George hurries into his office where Uncle Billy is waiting for him. Interior, George's office day. Close shot, George and Uncle Billy.
Why didn't you call me?
I just did, but they said you left. This is a pickle, George. This is a pickle.
All right, now what's happened? How did it start?
How does anything like this ever start? All I know is the bank called our loan
When?
about an hour ago. I had to hand over all our cash,
All of it?
every cent of it. And it was still less than we owe.
Holy mackerel.
And then I got scared, George, and closed the doors. I
The whole town's gone crazy.
The telephone rings. Uncle Billy picks it up.
oh, yes, hello? George. It's Potter.
Hello?
Interior, Potter's library day. Medium shot. Potter seated behind his desk, his goon alongside him. Standing in front of the desk is a distinguished-looking man, obviously the president of the bank. He is mopping his brow with his handkerchief.
George, there's a rumor going around town that you've closed your doors. Is that true? Oh, well, I'm very glad to hear that, George. Are you all right? Do you need any police?
Interior, George's office day. Close shot, George and Uncle Billy.
Police? What for?
Interior, Potter's office day. Medium close shot. Potter talking on phone.
Well, mobs can get pretty ugly sometimes. You know, George, I'm going to go out and help you in this crisis. I've just guaranteed the bank sufficient funds to meet their needs. They'll close up for a week and then reopen.
Interior, George's office day. Close shot, Uncle Billy. George and Uncle Billy.
He just took over the bank.
Interior, Potter's office day. Close shot, Potter on phone.
I may lose a fortune, but I'm willing to guarantee your people too. Just tell them to bring their shares over here and I will pay them 50 cents on the dollar.
Interior George's office day. Close shot, George and Uncle Billy.
Huh? You never miss a trick, do you, Potter? Well, you're going to miss this one.
George bangs the receiver down and turns to meet Uncle Billy's anxious look. Interior Potter's office. Close up on Potter on phone.
If you close your doors before 6 p.m., you will never reopen.
He realizes George is hung up and clicks the phone furiously. Interior George's office day. Close shot, George and Uncle Billy.
George, was it a nice wedding? Gosh, I wanted to be there.
Yeah. You can take this one off now.
The ominous sound of angry voices comes in from the other room. George and Uncle Billy exit from George's office. Interior outer office building and loan day. Medium close shot. More people have crowded around and the counter. Their muttering stops and they stand silent and grim. There's panic in their faces.
Now, just remember that this thing isn't as black as it appears.
As George speaks, sirens are heard passing in the street below. The crowd turn to the windows, then back to George.
I have some news for you folks. I've just talked to Old Man Potter, and he's guaranteed cash payments at the bank. The bank's going to reopen next week.
But George, I've got my money here. Did he guarantee this place?
Well, no, Charlie, I didn't even ask him. I don't need Potter over here.
Mary and Ernie have come into the room during the scene. Mary stands watching silently.
I'll take mine now.
No, but you're thinking of this place all wrong. As if I had the money back in a safe. The money's not here. Your money's in Joe's house, right next to yours, and in the Kennedy house, and Mrs. Macklin's house, and 100 others. Why? You're lending them the money to build, and then they're going to pay it back to you as best they can. Now, what are you going to do? Foreclose on them?
I got $242 in here, and $242 isn't going to break anybody.
Medium close shot, another angle.
Okay, Tom, all right, here you are. You sign this. You'll get your money in 60 days.
60 days.
Well, now that's what you agreed to when you bought your shares.
There's a commotion on the outer doors. A man, Randall, comes in to make his way up to Tom.
Tom, did you get your money?
No.
Well, I did. Old Man Potter paid 50 cents on the dollar for every share you got.
50 cents on the dollar?
Yes, cash.
Well, what do you say?
Now, Tom, you have to stick to your original agreement. Now give us 60 days on this.
Okay, Randall.
He starts out. Are you going to go to Potter's?
Better to get half than nothing.
A few other people start for the door. Camera pans with George as he vaults over the counter quickly, speaking to the people.
Tom, Randall, now wait. Now listen to me. I beg of you not to do this thing. If Potter gets hold of this building and loan, there'll never be another decent house built in this town. He's already got charge of the bank. He's got the bus line. He's got the department stores, and now he's after us. Why? Well, it's very simple. Because we're cutting in on his business. That's why. And because he wants to keep you living in slums and paying the kind of rent he decides.
The people are still trying to get out, but some of them have still stood still, listening to him. George has begun to make an impression on them.
Joe, you lived in one of his houses, didn't you? Well, have you forgotten? Have you forgotten what he charged you for that broken down shack? Here, Ed, you remember last year when things weren't going so well and you couldn't make your payments. You didn't lose your house, did you? Do you think Potter would have let you keep it? Can't you understand what's happening here? Don't you see what's happening? Potter isn't selling, Potter's buying. And why? Because we're panicky and he's not. That's why. He's picking up some bargains. Now we can get through this. We can get through this thing all right. We've got to stick together. Yeah, stick together though. We've got to have faith in each other.
But my husband hasn't worked in over a year. I need money.
How am I going to live until the bank opens? I've got doctor bills to pay. I need cash. Can't feed my kids on faith.
During this scene, Mary has come up behind the counter. Suddenly, as the people once more start moving towards the door, she holds up a roll of bills and calls out.
How much do you need?
George jumps over the counter and takes the money from Mary.
Hey, I got $2,000. Here's $2,000. This'll tide us over until the bank reopens. All right, Tom? How much do you need?
$242.
Oh, Tom, just enough to tide you over till the bank reopens.
I'll take $242.
George starts rapidly to count out the money. Tom throws his passbook on the counter.
There you are.
That'll close my account.
Your account's still here. That's a loan.
Mary turns and slips through the crowd, followed by Ernie. George hands the $242 to Tom. Anne speaks to Ed, the next in line.
Okay. All right, Ed.
I got $300 here, George.
Uncle Billy takes out his wallet and takes out all the cash he's got.
Now, Ed, what'll it take till the bank reopens? What do you need?
Well, I suppose $20.
$20. Now you're talking. Fine. Thanks, Ed. All right. Now, Mrs. Thompson, how much do you want?
But it's your own money, George.
Never mind about that. How much do you want?
Well, I can get along with 20, all right.
$20.
And I'll sign a paper.
Oh, you don't have to sign anything. I know you'll pay it back when you can. That's okay. All right, Mrs. Davis.
Could I have $17.50?
Bless your heart. Of course you can have it. You got 50 cents? 7.
Interior outer office building and loan night. Close shot. George, Uncle Billy, and Cousin Tilly are behind the counter watching the minute hand of the clock on the wall as George counts off the seconds. Cousin Eustace is ready to close the door.
We're gonna make it, George. They'll never close us up today.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bingo!
Cousin Eustace slams and locks the door and scurries around the counter to join the others.
We made it. Look. Look, we're still in business. We've still got $2 left.
Uncle Billy is taking a drink out of his bottle.
Well, let's have some of that. Get some glasses, Cousin Tilly. We're a couple of financial wizards.
Those Rockefellers.
Get a tray of these great, big, important simoleons.
We'll save them for seed. Toast.
They raise their glasses.
A toast. A toast to Papa Dollar and to Mama Dollar. And if you want the old building and loan to stay in business, you better have a family real quick.
I wish they were rabbits.
I wish they were too. Okay, let's put them in the safe and see what happens.
The four of them parade through the office. George puts the $2 in the safe. Close shot, group around the safe door as George comes out.
Wedding cigars.
Uh-oh, wedding. Holy mackerel. I'm married. Where's Mary? Mary. Oh, poor Mary. Look, I've got a train to catch. Well, the train's gone. I wonder if Ernie's still here with his taxi cab.
George rushes into his office to look out the window. George, there's a call for you.
Look, will you get my wife on the phone? She's probably over at her mother's.
Mrs. Bailey is on the phone. Interior George's office. Medium close-up, George is thoroughly rattled.
I don't want Mrs. Bailey. I want my wife. Mrs. Bailey? Oh, that's my wife. Oh, here, I'll take it in here. Oh, Mary? Hello. Oh, listen, dear. Oh, I'm sorry. What? Come home? What home? 320 Sycamore? Well, what? Whose home is that? The Waldorf Hotel, huh?
Exterior Old Granville House night. Medium long shot, an old-fashioned, run-down house, unpainted and warped by the weather. It once had class, but has not been lived in for years. This is the house that George and Mary will live in from now on. The rain is pouring down. A faint glow of light shines out from the bottom windows. George hurries into the scene. He stops to make sure that it is the right number before going up the steps. Exterior side of house night. Close shot. Bert and man working in the rain sort through travel posters.
Hey, this is the company's posters, and the company won't like this. How would you like to get a ticket next week? Haven't you any romance in you? Sure I have, but I got rid of it. Liver pills. Who wants to see liver pills on their honeymoon? What? They want romantic places, beautiful places, places George wants to go to.
A sharp whistle is heard. Close shot, window of house. Ernie is leaning from the window.
Hey, Bert, here he comes.
Close shot, Bert and man.
Come on, we got to get this up. He's coming. Who? The groom, you idiot. Come on, get that ladder. What? They are ducks.
Close shot, porch side of house. Bert and the man are putting up travel posters to cover up the broken windows.
Get that ladder up there. All right, all right. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I'm hurrying.
Medium close shot. George is approaching the front door of the house on which a sign is hanging. Bridal suite. Ernie looks out through the curtain covering the broken glass of the front door.
Hiya. Good evening, sir.
Ernie opens the door, revealing himself as a homemade butler. This has been accomplished by rolling up his pants and putting on an old coachman's hat. George enters.
Entree, monsieur. Entree.
Interior Granville House night. Close shot, George enters. The house is carpetless, empty. The rain and wind cause funny noises upstairs. A huge fire is burning in the fireplace. Near the fireplace, a collection of packing boxes are heaped together in the shape of a small table and covered with a checkered oil cloth. It is set for two. A bucket of ice and a champagne bottle sit at the table as well as a bowl of caviar. Two small chickens are impaled on a spit over the fire. A phonograph is playing on a box, and a string from the phonograph is turning the chickens on the spit. The phonograph is playing Song of the Islands. Mary is standing near the fireplace looking as pretty as any bride ever looked. She is smiling at George, who has been slowly taking in the whole setup. Through a door, he sees the end of a cheap bed, over the back of which is a pair of pajamas and a nightie. Ernie exits and closes the door.
Welcome home, Mr. Bailey.
Well, I'll be, Mary. Mary, where did you?
They rush into each other's arms and hold each other in ecstasy. Exterior side of house night, close shot. Bert and Ernie standing in the pouring rain singing I Love You Truly. Interior house night, close shot, George and Mary. They remain embraced.
Oh, Mary.
Remember the night we broke the windows in this old house? This is what I wished for.
Oh, darling, you're wonderful.
Exterior side of house night, close shot, Bert and Ernie. They finish their song, and Ernie kisses Bert on the forehead. Bert slams Ernie's hat on his head. Fade out, fade in. Exterior Slum Street, Bedford Falls, day, 2 years later, medium close shot. In the front of one of the miserable shacks that line the streets are two vehicles. One of them is George Bailey's rickety car, and the other is an even more rickety truck, piled high with household goods. The Martini family is moving. The family consists of Martini, his wife, and 4 kids of various ages from 2 to 10. George and Mary are helping the Martinis move. About a dozen neighbors crowd around. Martini and George, assisted by 3 of the Martini children, are carrying out the last of the furniture. As they emerge from the house, one of the neighbors, Schultz, calls out.
Martini, you rented a new house.
I don't know. who
Oh, that's me
Martini
too,
is.
I think. Rent? You hear what he say, Mr. Bailey?
What's that?
I own the house. Me, just Betty Martini. I own my own house. No more we live like pigs in this potter's field. Hurry, Maria.
Yes.
Come on. And bring the baby. I'll bring the kids in the car.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Mary gets in the front seat of the car with the baby in her arms.
All right, kids. Here, get in here. Now get right up on the seat there. Get the goat.
The family goat gets in the back seat with the 3 kids.
Goodbye, everybody.
All in.
The rickety caravan starts off down the street to the cheer of the neighbors. Wipe to exterior Bailey Park Day. Close shot. Sign hanging from the tree. Welcome to Bailey Park. Camera pans to follow George's car and the old truck laden with furniture as they pass. We hear Martini's voice singing O Sole Mio. Bailey Park is a district of new small houses, not all alike, but each individual. New lawns here and there, and young trees. It has the promise, when built up, of being a pleasant little middle-class section. Wipe to exterior, Martini's new house day, medium close shot. George and Mary are on the porch of the new house, with the Martinis lined up before them.
Mr. and Mrs. Martini, welcome home.
The Martinis cross themselves. Exterior street, Bailey Park Day, close shot. Sam Wainwright is standing in front of his big black town car. Sam is the epitome of successful, up-and-coming businessman. His wife in the car is a very attractive, sophisticated-looking lady, dripping with furs and jewels. Sam is watching George across the street.
That old George, he's always making a speech. Hee-haw!
Exterior new house, day, close shot. Mary and George on porch.
Sam Wainwright.
Oh, who cares? Bread, that this house may never know hunger.
Mrs. Martini crosses herself.
Salt, that life may always have flavor.
And wine, that joy and prosperity may reign forever. Enter the Martini Castle.
The Martinis cross themselves, shaking hands all around. The kids enter with screams of delight. Mrs. Martini kisses Mary. Interior Potter's office in bank day. Close shot. Potter, seated in his wheelchair at his desk with his goon beside him. His rent collector, Reineman, is talking, pointing to maps spread out on the desk. Look, Mr. Potter, it's no skin off my nose. I'm just your little rent collector. But you can't loft off this Bailey Park anymore. Look at it. A buzzer is heard, and Potter snaps on the dictaphone on his desk.
Congressman Blatz is here to see you. Oh, tell Congressman to wait. Go on.
15 years ago, a half-dozen houses stuck here and there. There's an old cemetery, squirrels, buttercups, daisies. Used to hunt rabbits there myself. Look at it today. Dozens of the prettiest little homes you ever saw. 90% owned by suckers who used to pay you rent to you. Your Potter's Field, my dear Mr. Employer, is becoming just that. And are the local yokels making with those David and Goliath wisecracks?
Oh, they are they? Even though they know the Baileys haven't made a dime of it?
You know very well why. The Baileys were all chumps. Every one of these homes is worth twice what it cost to build the building and loans to build. If I were you, Mr. Potter.
Well, you're not me.
As I say, it's no skin off my nose. But one of these days, this bright young man is gonna be asking George Bailey for a job. Reineman exits.
The Bailey family has been a boil on my neck long enough.
He flips a switch on his dictaphone.
Yes, sir? Come in here.
Exterior street in Bailey's Park. Date. Close shot. George and Mary are talking to Sam Wainwright in front of the latter's car. His wife, Jane, is now out of the car.
We just stopped in town to take a look at the new factory, and then we're going to drive on down to Florida.
Oh,
Why don't you and your friends join us? Why, sure. Hey, why don't you kids drive down with us, huh?
oh, I'm afraid I couldn't get away, Sam.
Still got the nose to the old grindstone, eh? Jane, I offered to let George in on the ground floor in plastics, and he turned me down cold.
Oh, now don't rub it in.
I'm not rubbing it in. Well, I guess we better run along.
There's a handshake all around as Sam and Jane get into their car.
Awfully glad to have met you, Mary. Nice meeting you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, George. So long, George. See you in the funny papers.
Goodbye, Sam.
Have fun.
Thanks for dropping around.
To Florida. Hee-haw!
Yeah.
The big black limousine glides away, leaving George standing with his arm around Mary, gazing brutally after it. They slowly walk over to George's old car and look at it silently. Wipe to interior Potter's office day. Close shot.
And I believe that is where we have the intermission.
Oh, wow. Feels like it's almost over, but no.
And there's some of that to talk about afterwards, if we even have a chance to get to afterwards and talking about it, because it might be too late. But for now it's 05, so see you guys around 10-minute mark, an hour. Go to the restroom, get a drink, stretch.
Oh, 10 after.
10
was like,
after.
See you in an hour?
Because it's
What?
it's 8:05 for 8:06 now for me, so it'll be 8:11. But for some of you, it's gonna be 11:11, and other ones 9:11. So see you guys in
Ah.
5 minutes.
It's 11 where Michelle is.
I know that, yeah. You doing okay, Michelle?
Uh,
I'm doing good. I'm just wondering, like, if this is halfway. Whew.
Yeah.
Once we did like adjust and call it audible, like
The very
we
first
and we can discuss this. We can discuss this now or later and see, like, do we want to only do half and save half for next week? Because next week was just going to be a get together and hang out, and we can split it up part 1 and part 2. It's an option. Take your 5 minutes, think about it, and then come
Okay.
back and we'll discuss it.
okay.
All right, we're back, and we have discussed during the intermission off screen of on our chat, and we have decided that we are going to pause this intermission. This intermission is not 5 minutes long, it's a week long. It's just a week-long intermission, that's all. And since we have a little time and we're in Dean, we'll talk a little bit about our thoughts so far. And then next week we'll pick up the second half and then talk about the rest of it then. So I just want to say, like, for you guys so far picking up whose name you guys have, great job. Who has some thoughts they would like to well, one thing I'll say from what you guys are saying in the chats, and I'm going to put 2 links in our description on the YouTube channel or in the comments of a podcast I listened to and also a YouTube video. But one thing they brought up in the podcast, 2 of the people there hadn't seen it before, and when they actually watched the movie, they thought the whole movie was only going to be like what happens in the 3rd act. Right now we're only like halfway to it. We're like at the midpoint.
Yeah.
And they didn't know about all this first beginning stuff. So they're like, when is this other stuff going to happen that I know about, and not this his whole life and building up to it. So
That's how
What-
I feel. I haven't seen this. I've never seen it. And that's exactly how I feel. Like you kind of always see like when a bell rings an angel, you see that part and you kind of have an assumption of what it's about, and it's totally different.
I thought I'd
And a lo-
seen it, but now I'm like, maybe I only was in the play and that's it. And I think they shortened the play. I don't think it was this whole thing.
Well, on that note, this, and I learned this from that podcast, I wouldn't have known otherwise, but this movie is from a book, or they might say novella, and that book was only basically really the last third, and they developed it more for the movie. You were shaking your head, Michelle, so you probably actually know more about this than I do.
Yeah.
You'd like to elaborate? And you too,
Um,
Nikki. Okay.
Oh, I guess just what I know is I've watched it probably 50 times. So the entire time I could hear the beats and everything going through the entire thing. And yeah, I knew that it was based on a booklet, or like novella, very tiny novella. And I think Frank Capra really kind of fought to have this developed. And it was a flop at the movies when it originally came out. And it did not get popular until maybe the 80s or 90s, when it accidentally, they lost their license, their copyright, and then it was able to be broadcast on like public television and stuff. So
Wow.
it's when it really blew up. And yeah, so that.
That's cool information.
Yeah.
Who all has seen it? Like, am I the only person who's never seen it yet?
I don't know. I thought I'd seen it, but now I'm like,
I
I
haven't
don't know.
I haven't seen the actual movie. I've seen bits of it, but they do it. They
As a
used
radio
to,
play, right? They used to do it as a radio play.
yeah, and Improv Jelly, 3 of us, we performed commercials in between the acts.
Yeah,
Or-
I was in that. I watched you.
Yeah, and
I
oh, that
forget
was so
what
much
role it
fun.
was.
Because we transported back to that time. We dressed like that. We found businesses that they did pay for us to advertise for them. They were real commercials, and it was so much fun.
It was really
But
good.
I didn't even watch the whole the whole thing there, because I'm backstage, right? I'm in the dressing room. It's like, so no, I haven't seen the whole thing. No.
Yeah. That's awesome. Like, I'm gonna add to what you said, Michelle. Like, okay, so yeah, it was made for 3.2 million, basically 3.18, and when it came out, it only made 3 million. Not only that, still seems like a lot from back then, but and I forget what order I was gonna say this before, but I saw it for the first time this past year, just recently, and I was shocked, like how well it held up. I thought, and the pacing is amazing when you watch it, and yeah, it feels almost like a modern movie except for certain things, and everybody thinks of it as a Christmas movie, and it seems like it comes out during Christmas time. And then once we get to the end, you can see why that feeling is there. But so
Yeah.
far, every single thing we've read doesn't feel like a Christmas movie at all yet. The first half. No, yeah. You guys have other thoughts on like what do you guys think it? I guess what it means so far. What's the? Can you tell what the story, like the theme is, or story, or what would you guys take from it so far?
To me, it looks like it's looking at the overall good for everyone rather than for the individual. So
And
helping each
and
other.
the good heart, it
Mhm.
passes from father to son because the example is taught, right?
Yeah. And even giving up his plan for his life maybe became a better life. Even though, like, they both looked at Sam and that could have been his life, but did they want it? No, they didn't care. They had love, they have their home, they have the love of the whole town. So,
I feel like he got caught in this place where his overwhelming sense of responsibility completely changed his life. None of his life was what he planned for or wanted, but he had such a feeling of responsibility to others that he had to change his whole life. And it feels like every time he gets to a place where he gets to have a choice and free will, the responsibility just slams down on him and he has to keep pivoting and changing plans. He doesn't seem like the director of his own life. His life being changed by circumstance.
he does
And
really, sorry,
you go for it.
just that he does really seem to look at the whole situation as not just what's best for me, but what's best overall. Who's going to get the most out of this? Like with his brother, Harry, is it a really good job? Is
Mhm.
it going to be good? And yes, it is. Okay, well, then I'll stick with this. So,
Yeah, and even at that moment, like his brother's like, no, 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 you've been holding it down. I'm gonna live up to my word. You know what I mean? You sent me to college. I'm
and
gonna
he
do
would
that.
have, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and but he's like, but no, he does what's for his brother. Or the first time leaving the bank, they're like, no, no, you go. It's fine. He's just like, no. And then it
Yeah.
shows too, like he married the right wife for him, because when the things happen with Bank, she comes with the money. She does the same thing, even though before that she's asking him, come on, just go, just go.
Mhm.
But
I also like what Roxanne was talking about, how, you know, he can't really help the decisions that he's essentially forced to make, because, you know, you have two choices and one's the obviously good, right choice and one's the obviously selfish choice. And at the very beginning, we see Clarence, the angel, and we get the sense that Clarence is, he hasn't got his wings yet for whatever reason. We don't know why Clarence doesn't have his wings yet, but you get the fact maybe he's not the most competent guardian angel, and it just happens to be his turn, you know. So it's like, well, we'll send Clarence because it's his turn. But the same kind of thing is, it's not like they pit Clarence out because he's the best guardian angel, but, you know, like, okay, well, you do this, you'll get your wings. But, you know, it's kind of interesting to see that sort of parallel of Clarence doesn't get a choice as much, you know. It's a sort of providence, if you will, that he gets picked to help out George.
what do you guys think of? Oh, go for it, Michelle.
You had sent, I know you'll put it in the chat or whatever. It was a 6-minute video about talking about the theme throughout it is about choice. The choices that we make in life and like the path that it puts us on every time we make a choice. And George is constantly faced with a choice. Like it's just a consistent, constant choices that he has to make. And I know, like, I've watched it so many times. Like, remember that YouTube video, that 6-minute description really hit home in terms of the overall arcing theme of what I noticed in the movie. So about choice.
Yeah, I think having our plans, our life plans actually come to fruition, I think it's a very small percentage of people who are actually successful with, actually getting what they thought they wanted. Because life just takes us down different roads. We don't know that's going to happen. And yes, it's choices. Yeah.
So
I
with
I
what
had plans. I know.
with what you just said, a video that I was watching today about screenwriting said that usually when the protagonist gets what they want, what they originally want,
Mm.
it's actually a tragedy. The show is a tragedy. If when they get what they need, that's when it's a lighthearted, it's good, it's positive. I don't know. I know the it's tragedy or comedy, but
Yeah.
in the past, I don't know. Anyways, stuff that
Yeah, want versus need. And
yeah,
screenplay
yeah.
for sure.
So
What were we gonna say, Vicky? You're gonna add to that, or
Oh,
oh, I thought you said add. I thought you said started to say something. Never mind. It's
I
okay then.
did, but now I'm not sure. I don't
And that's why
remember.
we're cutting it in half and not continuing another 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't know my name at the end of the movie if we did it all in one go.
Yeah, I'm
somehow
George
I
Bailey.
keep getting my hair
Yeehaw,
in my
yeehaw.
mouth, so I just have had it'd be like a hairball by the end if we stuck with it.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to see that.
I think as the screenplay itself goes, I think it's very interesting how it specifies all the shots.
Mhm.
Because most things that we read don't. But this is like medium shot, long shot, close up. Like it's very specific in very specific spots. Whereas that's kind of like a director choice, right?
It's
Generally.
probably would it be a shooting script then, this one?
Well, I mean, this is older, and you can see the screenplay is still pretty much the same as it is now, but that's a different aspect to it. And I do wonder because, like, we look at this, and this is obviously not the script they used back then. It's someone retyped it up. So I don't know if they looked at the script or if they did a transcript, or do you know anything, Michelle?
My guess is it's a transcript of the movie
Mm.
because there were a lot of acting choices that were made that were in the script that got ditched because what the actors did was so much more real. Like Uncle Billy, when it talks about crashing, like all these tin cans crashing, the actor walked off stage, and then when he walked off, somebody was carrying a bunch of film canisters and dropped them. And the actor off screen said, I'm all right to keep the shot going. So that was like never in the regular script.
Okay.
The telephone call where there was supposed to be a much longer dialogue between George and Mary, and they just went with it. And Capra was like, got it. That's it. So
That's
it,
awesome.
as I was really curious about what the actual original was. And when I saw it, I was like, this feels like it's a transcript of the film itself.
I was feeling like it was well, I have more to say about that, but like, where did this knowledge come from? How do you know what they were supposed to do or what happened? Or like,
Because I've
Before-
been fascinated with this movie forever, and
yeah,
I've gone to the It's a Wonderful Life weekend. I mean, it's been going on for like 30 years. They have a museum there. It has all of this stuff. It's got original scripts. It's got like all kinds of stuff. It's like an hour and a half from my house. And then in the movie, in the script, there's a character who says, I want to get back to my family in Elmira for Christmas Eve. Well, Elmira's 2 hours from me. So it's just, I think over time and the fact that I live locally where there's a whole, where they believe it was originally Frank Capra was inspired by it.
that's so awesome. And I'm glad to hear. Lots of times we look at a script and we're like, we think it's a transcript, we think this, but we don't know. And so it's awesome to have a confirmation here that it is. Like some of it I was reading and I'm like, it seems like a transcript, but I'm like, the way they say this, I feel like that wording or something wouldn't be an example and they wouldn't have said it like that if it was, rewritten today just from somebody watching the movie and written it. But yeah. So that's awesome. Any
When was
other
the film?
thoughts? Yeah, what was it?
What year?
Was it 70 years ago, right? 40 something. Let's see.
I think it was 43, maybe.
Yeah. So 1946, American Christmas
46.
Supernatural
All right,
Drama.
right after World War II.
Oh, another thing that this other podcast went into, which is again, they're saying maybe it's what is it called? True or not? Maybe you'll know, Michelle, but they were saying some of the they feel like it maybe didn't do as well at first because some of the corporations things were trying to push back on it for a couple reasons. One, that it made like corporations look really bad and they maybe didn't want that. And then the other half is like because of the wars and stuff, anything that looked like socialism or communism or against capitalism, they kind of like were trying to stomp that down too, is what is a theory or someone saying that out there.
I haven't heard anything about that, but makes sense because it was filmed right after World War II. So maybe it was something about not sensationalizing, or I don't know.
Well, there is that line that we heard, all's fair in love and war. And then the other character responds back with, well, I don't know about war, which I thought very interesting in the context of when it was actually released.
Hmm.
Good point.
Oh, here's another thing. The woman in the film who plays George Bailey's mother, the actress,
Mhm.
and Jimmy Stewart, she played Jimmy Stewart's mother in like 4 films.
Wow, that's awesome. It makes me think, I'm gonna get the name wrong. Is it Ford Coppola in his movie? Which one did he do? Is it Godfather? Or that he has his mom in the movies and he almost doesn't even give her lines, he just like has her be her mom and like the cooking scene, or whatever. Yeah. I didn't pay her much.
Does this
Yeah, I wonder.
mean
Go ahead.
more to you, Michelle, because you work teaching deaf students, or because George has that hearing?
You know what? I never even thought of that. Like that never even occurred to me until you brought that up. No, I think it just because I love it, and then it's like Rochester's 2 hours for me. So there's so much locally that
And you're
is
steeped in that culture. It's like someone
Yeah.
from PEI being in Anne of Green Gables.
yes, exactly. Yeah, that kind of idea.
What are any, sorry to keep going to Michelle, like 2 of your favorite facts about this movie that, or interesting things that you learned from all your going to those festivals and experiences and stuff?
I think like I don't know, the 2 or 3 are probably, I've already mentioned them. One is about the timing of the crash and everything that wasn't in the original script or anything, that the actor playing Uncle Billy, just man on his toes doing that to save the shot. And then what was the other thing? I can't remember. Oh, the fact that the scene with the telephone. So for anybody who has not watched it, you watch that telephone scene, it is like one of the most intensely intimate moments I've ever seen on screen. And you can almost feel like I'm watching something that's really like supposed to be this, and it was like never written. It was, as I understand it, it had much more context to it, and just says how incredible the actors were that chose to just go with that, and the director who just let them go with that. So
That's the one when they were on the phone with Sam?
yes, when she drops the phone, or when they were mad, and yes, with Sam
Yeah.
Wainwright.
Cheek
Watch
to
that.
cheek.
Seriously, watch that like 3 minutes.
That romantic moment in anticipation when their lips almost touch and then they just can't take it anymore.
And but it's like they hate each other and love each. It's just like so incredible. It's really, really good.
anyone else have any things they want to share about their movie or likes or surprises or experiences?
I'm more moved to actually watch it this year after reading the script, so that's something.
I'm excited about the next reading because it's the part of the movie that people know, and I didn't know anything about what we just read.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the next bit that I want to read.
And the one thing that makes it feel like a Christmas movie to me is the character of Potter, because he's very Scrooge-like, and you hear a lot of of the Christmas Carol sort of. It kind of echoes the same kind of themes within there, at least that portion of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
another little bit of information. It's John Barrymore who plays Potter, and that's Drew Barrymore's grandfather
oh
Right.
wow.
or
Thank you
great
for that
grandfather. I'm not
trivia.
sure, grandfather or great grandfather, but it's John Barrymore who plays Potter.
Such a
Oh.
long line of actors that young lady is from.
Yeah.
Great actors.
All right then. Well, I guess we'll call it a wonderful night then. And
And it was a
Um,
wonderful reading.
it was so far. Just kidding. And a wonderful intermission, a wonderful discussion.
A wonderful cast.
Hopefully
Yes.
everyone can follow along while we're talking to ourselves as different characters.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know.
It's fun.
And this got to almost be an interesting thing for someone to watch it now because they saw half of it. Like normally it's like I either see the movie before you read it or you read it before you see the movie. Now you can split it up. Make it a mix up.
That's right.
But it's a unique opportunity. But yeah, it's directed so well too. I recommend watching it. And I waited till just this past year before I ever saw it. So I think it's awesome. All right, I know not everyone can be here next week. So thank you for being here this week. And for those that can, all right, we'll pick it up next week and we'll have others join us that weren't here this week.
Yeah,
So
that'd be good.
Yes, Michelle, it was lovely to have you join us.
It was
Mhm.
awesome.
Hope that you join us again.
It was a
Share all
lovely
your-
opportunity, so I look forward to more, even though I can't do
Yeah.
next week. So
It was great you
Good.
could join this one because you had so much to share about it too.
Yeah.
So, very nice.
and and next year, Kat, Vicky, Aaron, and stuff will take the helm a little bit more. Well, I'll still be here to support and keep going, but so just put that out there. But we'll talk more about that later, and we'll talk offline and see you guys all soon.
Happy holidays to everyone because it will be
Yes,
after Christmas when we see you next. So
it's true.
enjoy your holiday season for whatever that brings you.
As they say in Britain, happy Christmas.
There you go.
Wonderful night. Bye.